Well, welcome in to Third Party Observers Podcast. I'm your co-host, Austin. I got John and Stan here with me as well.
Hello.
And we've got another special guest this week, Mr. Ian Mall.
Hello.
Wave to the people.
Wait, your name isn't Mooley?
No, it's Maul. The worst I've ever had was for a wrestling tournament. Someone called me Malvle because like the U looked like a V, and I just like for a quick second was like, do I run with it and become French?
Okay.
Am I like, I shall pin you? And I'm like, that'd be great. Like just draw a pencil thin mustache on in like 7th grade, like a chubby 7th grader with a bad Beatles haircut. Yeah.
That is good to know. I should have known your name. We've been friends for a little bit.
Well, I mean, our last podcast, I did not know how to pronounce the last name, so I shouldn't have went in so confident on
How's
yours.
it spelled?
Yours or the last one?
I know how my last name is spelled.
I don't know how to spell your name.
Shocking. Yeah.
Is Mobley, so Mobley.
Okay.
But it could have been Mobley.
Yo, Mobley's dope though. That sounds like a 90s like 90s early 2000s rap group. Mobley. Yeah.
I hope she finds that as a compliment.
Yeah.
First thing that came to mind was Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother.
Ted Mobley.
Yeah, Ted Mosby.
Okay.
Well, Ian, you're a photographer. You're
Yes.
a stand-up comedian.
I've sorts, yeah.
Yeah. Former trivia host.
Former trivia host, still trivia.
Current trivia
player.
champion.
Technically, no. We did have a city championship, and we did.
All right.
It's an
So,
asterisk. But
former
he's not
champion.
He's not.
yeah.
He's bad at trivia.
Yeah. Bad at life. Bad at photos. Thanks for having me.
Joke's on you. This is a bad podcast. So.
And a title that we're giving you is Party Master. Party Master of Tulsa.
I have a tattoo on my chest that looks like it's two triangles that are on top of each other, one's facing up, one's facing down, and it looks like a Jewish star, which is a stupid mistake on my part. Because like I got the tattoo and I was like, this isn't some like internationally known symbol that's been around for millennia.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, hey, and I was like, cool. And so what my friends want me to do is they want me to fill it in to say party sheriff and then put dots on it and make it look like a badge.
Nice. Yeah.
So I could like walk around and be like what's the problem around here? And I tried at a party in college once. And it went over to mixed reviews. Like power really goes to my head quickly. It really does at any situation. So I was like, "You can't do that." And they're like, "It's not a real title. You're like the vice president. Like you can't really do anything."
Well, to show it off, you'd have to cut a circle in your
You
shirt.
assumed I was
just
wearing a shirt at this party?
Yeah.
Stan, you don't like. There was a long
it's
time.
that kind of party.
Well, none of you guys knew me in college. There was a long time where like I would hit like 11:30 at night at a party, and I'd be like. Off like what's the point? Like I'm gonna sweat less laundry. I was doing laundry like I was in college honestly like once a month maybe.
Oh wow.
Like oh wow's the deal. I was not I shouldn't be here in a lot of cases, but you do what you can and you grow up as a person, and so now I'm up to the weekly laundry. It's
Well,
cool.
look at you, all grown up. I'm
Thanks. the sheer pity in your voice is really like how dare you, a man who didn't know my last name is like trying to talk down to me.
Well, do you know my last name?
Crap. All right, touche.
Do you
It's
know
Lawler.
anyone here's last name?
Well, you're Brewer. Damn it. And
he
then
knows me the best.
He knows me the best.
your wife was it Angel? Was that how it's pronounced? I knew that, but I only knew that because your guys are part of your Instagram handles. Right? Isn't you're like Brewco or Brewha?
Brouhaha, yeah.
Brouhaha, and I think yours is just like your name. I'm pointing to Amy off camera.
She doesn't appear on camera ever.
Okay, that's fine. So how is the marriage going, by the way?
It's great.
She gets kept in the corner.
For the last couple of weeks, she's been a prisoner of the house because my car has been in the shop, and so I take her car to work every day. So she literally can't leave.
I mean, there's Ubers and stuff. So
Yeah, but have you seen
Any thoughts? that Mickey Mouse no brought to you by Amy. And then I knew Mason's because he worked. You're our friend Mason from from
A
trivia.
guy named Mason.
Yeah. I knew his last name because he worked in the industry.
Yeah.
So like that's the only reason I knew that. He worked as a producer at.
And once you learn his last name, you're like, I'm not.
His whole
forgetting
last name
this.
is a German sneeze. So it's fine.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So you're not from Oklahoma. How did you end up here?
So So I started taking photos back when I was in high school. My mom was in the industry. I worked. The weird thing about our high school was we were one of like 10 papers in the entire school or in the entire country. One of 10 schools. They did a weekly newspaper. So we had to make a paper every week. So I was like shooting a bunch. I went and took journalism because I wanted to be a reporter. I realized that like grammar confuses me. So I said I can take photos. So I took photos, led to that. Started to go to school at Western Kentucky. They're
Go
really
Hilltoppers.
Go Hilltoppers, absolutely. They're a highly regarded photojournalism school. And then from there, I had been interning around the country while I was in school and a little bit afterwards. So I was living in Michigan at one point, living in Pennsylvania. I was living in Utah. And then I moved back home, and I had that glorious period where I was adult enough to know how to have fun, but I was still like my parents were helping me out. So like I was living with my parents. So it was like awesome because like I could wake up and apply for jobs and then like go hit the rowing machine and then like go play trivia or Jeopardy and then like go for a run and like hang out with friends. And I'm like, oh, this will never end. And then I got a job and it's like all that. So I got my first job in Savannah, Georgia. It was not a good fit, I think, for either of us. And then one of my advisors, he was a lab technician at Western. His name was Jim Bai. He actually recently passed this year. He's a great, awesome guy and helped out a lot of students. He sent an email to me that was like, hey, Tulsa's looking for somebody. I know that you wanted to kind of get into sports photography, which is the kind of thing that you're focusing on. Oklahoma, I had known about from their football program and applied. And then I got the job. I had never...
Oh, I was talking about OU football.
Oh.
Yeah.
I just thought you like sneeze like a duck. It was very strange.
Oh, no. If I sneeze, you'll know.
Okay. Wow, thank you for the threat.
He won't even go to that.
That sounds like the tagline of the worst action movie. Like, when you sneeze, you'll know. Coming this fall. No, but yeah, I'd never been to Oklahoma, but like that had been a lot of my life. Like I moved away essentially to go to college at 18 and was home for a summer to work at a Six Flags amusement park, and then really never came back home. Like I just, even when I was home, I'd come home for 2 weeks and then go to another internship. So like when I lived in Michigan, I remember I came home and I told my mom on her birthday, love you, Mom. I was like, hey, so I got this internship at the Kalamazoo Gazette. And she was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And I said, yeah. And I was like, I need to find a house though. And she's like, well, you'll have time, sweetie. Like there probably aren't houses open for like the summertime. I'm like, no, I'm dropping out of college and I'm going to go work at this newspaper. And she's like, what? And I go, it's fine. I have like $400 to my name. I should be able to make it to the first
No big
month.
deal.
And my mom, like, I remember was terrified. I was just talking to her about this in the car. My dad was the one who like stepped in and was like, listen, like he seems to be taking this seriously. He seems to be good at it. Why don't we just give him a chance? Like, why doesn't we let him do this? So I remember I moved to Michigan. I lived with a dude named Dave, who, Dave, if you're listening, awesome guy. Dave loved two things, LSD and not like also like hand in hand jam bands. So like I came home one time and he was just ripped off of his out of his mind, blasting this jam band called Lotus. And I was like, hey man, could you turn it down? And he just like turned it down a little bit and he was like, sorry man, like when I get into it, I get into it. And I was like, cool man. Dave was dope. So I remember like I moved to Michigan and like I remember like, you know, when you start a new job, pay processing can take a while. And they asked me to go shoot an assignment about like 30 minutes away from the city. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And my boss was like, what do you mean? I'm like, I haven't been paid yet. I'm like, well, don't you have any money? And I'm like, I have $15 to my name. Like I was eating one meal a day, but like I wanted to do photography. I wanted to do this thing. And my like he gave me money. I remember this. He like a child. I was like 2 years younger than his daughter. And so like gave me money like I was his kid and was like, go fill up your gas tank. We need you to shoot this wrestling meet. Dang. And then like went to like HR and was like, why haven't you paid my my photographer? Like he's been working here for a month. And then I remember like when I got paid, like everyone knew because like I was like in the office and I like went out to grab lunch and I got like this obscene amount of like of course, I'll have 3 sandwiches. Like screw it, like, everything's great. Like,
I'm rich.
Yeah. Oh man, don't you miss that feeling?
Yeah.
Like when you had like $40 in college and you're like, I can eat for a month. Like this is incredible.
Yeah.
Like now I wake up and somehow I lose $30 just from existing. But I remember in college, like we'd work at the paper and you would get your check for $100 and you're like, oh my God, like I don't have to like talk to my parents ever again. Like I can be disowned from my family. I'm an independent person completely.
Yeah.
And then like within like a week when you spent it on like obscene amounts of like Schlitz liquor and like like Thai food, you're like, oh crap.
Yeah. It's, like,
Yeah.
hey,
It's all
Mom,
gone.
Yeah.
it's me again.
Yeah. So
So did you come to Oklahoma with any like I guess
like expectations or like preconceived notions. I mean, I'd heard the old like, this is nothing but like, like cowboy country and like, and going to school in Kentucky. Like, I mean, I remember when I went to school there, and there's the whole adage where people are like, oh, they're not going to wear shoes, they don't have teeth and stuff like that. Yeah, like I mean, I'm from northern Illinois, so like I know, and I grew up in a smaller farm town, which is funny, which is just like one breed of hick making fun of another breed of hick kind of thing. Where it's like, haha, it's like, what, their accent's different? They're doing the same shit, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
so I mean, I had some preconceived notions. I drove into Tulsa on a Saturday, and I went through downtown because I just plugged in Tulsa my GPS. The apartments I were looking at were right, 3 minutes from the office. So I was like, cool. And there was literally no one outside. And I remember I was on the phone with my friend John Hernandez, and I was like, I think I made a mistake. Like, no one's outside. Like, they have no nightlife. It's Saturday at 7:00 in the summer because it was in August, and not a single person was out. And I was like, well, this is weird. And then I've told people this, like, Tulsa's been like one of the most unexpected but pleasant surprises I've ever had in my life. Like,
so you do enjoy it then?
Yeah, Tulsa's really cool. I really think like, again, it's really easy to make fun of people, but like, like I have friends who live in New York that are like, oh wow, like Tulsa's such a small town, and I'm like, that's cool. By the way, I live 5 minutes from downtown, and I pay like your monthly rent is what I pay in 5 months. Like,
Yeah.
So cool. Like, yeah. It's also like, guess what? Like, I didn't see somebody pee on the bus today. Like, you did. Like,
and if pee on the bus is all they saw them do, then that's a good day.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's the thing. I think that Tulsa is. I've always considered since I've lived here, Tulsa to be such a really unique city, and I think the scary thing that's going on right now within the city is like, how do you keep the like heart of the small town while it's trying to get bigger?
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm really like that's something we're looking at where it's like I'm afraid Tulsa's gonna lose its Tulsa-ness because it's gonna try to be like, it's like, we don't want to be like Austin. It's like, well, you're doing all the things Austin did.
Yeah.
And it's like, we don't want to be like Nashville. It's like, that's funny because you're like gentrifying the exact areas Nashville did. So
Yeah. So I mean, you're involved in a few different activities. You got photography, comedy, trivia, throwing parties.
Yeah.
I mean, photography, I would guess, is your passion.
I don't know. I think my passion is like, this is going to sound cliche, but like people. Like all those things are connected. Like I got into trivia because I wanted to learn more about people. I like being around people. That's why I got into hosting. I got into comedy because I like being the center of attention at times, if you couldn't tell. And I liked being around, like I liked getting a reaction out of people. And like the same thing with photography. Like, a reporter at time, if they're in a pinch, they can call somebody and say like, hey, can I get a quote? Photography, I can't ever not, I have to be there. Like this always gets brought up when it snows. Like when it snows, or we have inclement weather, like so for most people, like snow days are like, oh my God, I'm gonna get cozy, I'm gonna get some wine, we're gonna watch this movie. Yeah. For me, it's like I have to go out and find other people who are dumb enough to go outside, or like most of the time have kids that have never seen snow. So like, I think that's my biggest like kind of passion. If I had anything, is I just like being around people and like learning about people, and like even people I don't like at least lend to an interesting story. So if I'm around people that like I don't like, hopefully I can use that to tell about people I do like. Like I had to go just photograph Ted Cruz. Not my cup of tea. If it's your cup of tea, stop drinking tea. But hopefully, so like, it's a negative experience, but you got to do that. But I think there's that. So yeah, I think people have always been my interesting thing. But yeah.
Okay. So like you take pictures and stuff, but like how much editing and time does it take before you actually publish a picture?
I mean, it depends on the situation and everything. So like I work nights, so a lot of time I'm on deadline. So if I'm shooting an OU game that kicks off at night, most likely if something happens at the half, that's gonna get in. But like we'll go. I'll call back a situation. So OU played Baylor a couple years ago, and they were down 35-3 at the half, and they come back and won 38-35. So like your first half means nothing because they played so badly. There was turnovers, and they had this big win. So I remember getting a text. I was on the field photographing Jalen Hurts celebrating with fans. Baylor Stadium's really weird. They have these like bushes that like line up. And so he's like in these bushes, like, yeah, we did it. But then also like he's a D1 athlete, like stuck in bushes, which is always kind of funny because he's like, I texted our sports editor and I said, how much of like what do we need and how much time? And he's like, we pretty much need an entire photo page in 10 minutes. And I said, cool. And just ran back. You just kind of like get in this focus and get that done. And I think that's really exciting too, because like to do those kind of things, to photograph and just to kind of get those done on deadline. It's obviously stressful, but that's the exciting part I think about it at times too, is I remember like waking up the next morning and looking at that. And then also with some of those games, I also help out with the Associated Press. So like I've had plenty of times where I've shot something, you get it in quick enough, and like I've dropped photos before other people, and that will be the difference between what gets picked up by another organization. Because like, believe it or not, most people are not going to be like, well, I mean, like, is the composition nice on this? A lot of people are just like, this is clearly a photo of someone doing something. So, yeah.
So
it's the first one out there. That's what,
yeah,
that's what
seriously,
matters.
yeah.
So like, I mean, you work for Tulsa World, but if another publication,
Yeah, so like
posts your photo, how does how do
yeah,
you
so
get
like
paid?
the AP works. We're an AP member paper, so like in order to be part of the AP, you have to pay a like kind of like a due or a fee. But then part of that is to like get a discount is like we submit to the AP. So like Ted Cruz was just in town. That stuff will be sent to the AP, and that prevents people from Texas and DC. They don't have to fly to Oklahoma to follow Ted Cruz because nobody wants to have that job anyways. So they get to send that in. Ted Cruz really getting dunked on. I mean, like I would say it's shocking, but it's like I feel like that is just his goal, and like like I guess he does it well, getting dunked on. But anyways, they like will use that. So when it comes to I've done freelance work for like the LA Times and the New York Times. I have to go to my editor and say, hey, the LA Times called me. They want to do a story on this. And 9 times out of 10, my editor will be like, that's fine, because it's usually a bigger national story, and we've either done something about it or anything like that. But like when it comes to OU, I've had a lot of organizations because sports is kind of my strong suit. I can't, like, if I'm working for the Tulsa World, I can't also work for another company while shooting like that. But the AP is different because the AP, we're a member, so I can drop that. So like when OU played LSU in that Peach Bowl a couple of years ago where they got completely destroyed, I got a photo of Justin Jefferson dragging Patrick Fields, who is a safety for OU. Very nice kid, went to Union High School, which is a local high school here. Really nice kid. I have so many photos of Patrick just getting completely like someone's making a career highlight on Patrick Fields, and it sucks because he is a great advocate for a lot of things and a really great kid. So there's been plenty of times where I'll photograph something and I'm like, oh, come on, Patrick, like just get out of the frame, like get out. Like I don't want to do this to you. But Justin Jefferson is dragging him into the end zone.
Yeah.
And so I posted that photo, and that was the front page of like the Washington Post, and that was the front page of the Dallas Morning News, and that was the front page. And that's always kind of exciting too, because I come from a small farm town of 6,000 people. So like. I was just speaking to my high school journalism class the day that Julius Jones was, Jones was the person who was up for his execution was going to happen.
Oh yeah.
And luckily it got stayed. But like I was talking to my class, and they're like, "What are you up to today?" And it's like, "Well, I'm going to go photograph this," and then that got picked up by the New York Times. So it was really kind of cool to go back and say like, "Hey, like here's some stuff." That's featured on the New York Times. So you don't get extra money for it, which sucks because that'd be great. Yeah.
So they give awards or prizes for good photographs, right?
Yes, they do.
The
Pulitzer, yeah. Well, the Pulitzer is for
You don't trust my research?
I didn't know how to
You
pronounce
guys
it.
should know what the Pulitzer is. I'm just saying.
No, I did the research. He just doesn't trust it.
You shouldn't have to research it.
Well, no, because I thought I was like I knew they did it for journalism and whatever, but thought they did it for pictures, but I just wanted to like double check and make sure when I wrote it down that they did.
Yeah.
And so
And
You spelled it right.
Kendrick Lamar has a Pulitzer as well.
Oh,
he
does
won it for
he?
the album Damn. Yeah. So there was always one thing where it's like, maybe I'm closer. There's that old adage like the worst player in the NBA is closer to Michael Jordan than you are to Michael Jordan. I was like, maybe I'm closer to a Pulitzer than Kendrick Lamar, and Kendrick Lamar is like, no, you're not. And I'm like, cool. So,
well, what makes the difference? I mean, like, what makes a photograph
Pulitzer worthy.
So like, I think the one thing that most people don't like understand with the Pulitzer is like a lot of it is just like timeliness. Like it is like, so Pulitzers are coming out in May. They usually are like May. Like last week of April, first week of May is when they announce them formally. They do a dinner in New York. It's run through Columbia University. And like January 6th will most likely be featured as either a finalist or a winner, because what they'll do is they'll have a winner and then they'll have like 4 finalists. So like either way, it's a great honor, because there is no other step. There is no like, because some of these contests will have different rounds and stuff. Like there's no Sweet 16. There's like, here are like the 5 people and one of these people won. So like January 6th was something that was, no matter what side of the aisle you stand on, was a big monumentous thing. That photo coverage or that reporting coverage will look at that, and they'll look and see how it's gone with like reporting. If the reporting on January 6th was really, really good, maybe they'll look at the photos and say, well, we've already honored this story. Maybe we'll honor something else. So like there was a story about from the Boston Globe that was really, really well done. That was about a family dealing with 2 children with, I don't know exactly what the non-neuronormative conditions that they had, but it was just kind of those struggles about being a lower income family doing that. That was kind of shocking, because a lot of times, you know, when you're in the small town newspapers, and I've always talked to people about this, which is it's kind of frustrating because, you know, with the Pulitzer, you try to do good work, but at the end of the day, it's like you're trying to scream amongst all these other voices. But you see a lot of that. Charleston, West Virginia won a Pulitzer a couple of years ago for city commission stuff. Richmond, Virginia won a Pulitzer. The Courier Journal did a great job. They've won 2 in the past 5 years. They've done a fantastic job in reporting. So yeah.
So it's more like you win it for the picture, but it's more about this article that's written with it.
Yeah. Well, no. So photography separately is just for photography, and I think the key to that is it has to be a very well done, high level thing. Well, high level piece of work, piece of photography that you've done or a story that you've worked on, but it also has to be at the big time. Okay. So the best way to describe it is like, you have to have your career best game in the playoffs. Okay. So like there's no point in dropping 60 points in a regular season game. You need to drop your 60. And you'll see that. And I mean, I've been lucky enough to meet Pulitzer Prize winners, and I have a couple friends who have been finalists, and my former staffer, Jesse Wodarski, who is now at the AP, won a Pulitzer there was a synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh a couple years ago, and she was part of the staff that recognized that. And I think that's the hardest thing about Pulitzers sometimes is it's very rarely like ever for like, it's like the Oscars kind of, which is like, it's never for like a fun thing. It's like, hey, what'd you win it for? It's like, well, this horrible thing happened. I happened to be there. And so it's like, oh, congrats. And like, that's kind of the toughest thing about journalism is like, I remember when police protesting was happening here, and my work was getting picked up, and, you know, I had so many friends that were going through it because it had just seemed to happen everywhere, which like, again, it's kind of a problem that it just kind of happened everywhere that police were like, yeah, we'll just shoot you with chemical deterrents, but that's fine. It's not. But anyways, that's kind of tough because like I could tell like my mom and my dad have gotten to the point where like they're like, hey, this is a really nice thing you've done. I understand that like if you had the choice, you wish you wouldn't have to do it. There's plenty of times I've taken really, really nice photos where if I could go back in time, I'd say I don't ever want to have to take this photo. Like I would wish I wouldn't have to take it. And I know a lot of people that are in that situation, but you know, the way I look at it is I'm here and I'm here to represent the community. And if I can make it look visually interesting and also at the same time, but more importantly, like respectful to those people that are in that situation. I think that's really hard too. I think a lot of people lose that narrative, and the kind of the go-go-go-ness of media is like, these are people. Like these people are being, you know, like we had flooding a couple of years ago. Like I was standing in people's houses that were like, you know, I remember I was in a house in Sand Springs and they still had decorations up from a 3rd grade, like from their 3-year-old's birthday party. And like, it's like, yeah, we just had a 3-year-old's birthday party. So did not expect for things to go down so much here. But yeah.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so like you mostly do sports photography. Yeah. But like, is there like a bucket list of things that you want as photographer?
Oh God, there's so many. So like includes in sports, like obviously like, so I've been lucky enough to photograph a Final Four, all 6 New Year's 6 bowl games. I've photographed 3 presidents. I've photographed a handful of celebrities. You know, Carrie Underwood, Kristen Chenoweth, that have all come through here and stuff. But like bucket list, obviously. Snoop Dogg, yeah. Snoop Dogg was Elton John. If we're talking about like a concert that I've had to photograph, that was the one. That's like been the only time where like I was like crying while photographing like a concert. Like he played Tiny Dancer. I'm like, I can hold together, and then like the chorus came in. And I'm like, nope. Just like screaming, and like, I looked over, and the other photographer's screaming, and you're like, oh, yeah, no. Bucket list for sure. There would be obviously like World Series, Super Bowl, NBA Finals, Stanley Cup, Olympics. Olympics has like always been my dream. Like I think the Olympics are so such a pure moment of sports, and I think it's such an interesting.
Unless you're Russia.
What'd you say?
I said unless you're Russian.
Well, I mean, like, yeah. I mean,
Well, they don't play.
Well,
They just cheat.
if we're gonna talk about that, I mean, there's a lot of research.
Yeah,
saying
I was
not
just
all
kidding.
Americans. Are
yeah, I
even-
don't want to get into
But
it.
I think my like the thing is like I like the sports that are featured because they are just like fencing is one of those things where like you're really good at and they get like one chance for people to know their
Yeah.
name. Even sprinting and stuff. Like there's phenomenal sprinters that we'll never hear of that can run they're 0.3 seconds off a world record. We'll
Yeah.
never hear of them. And so I'm really fascinated by that. And then pretty much like I would love to photograph like every NCAA championship. Huge collegiate wrestling fan. I wrestled in high school, so I think that's an interesting sport just because of the same kind of aspects. And then I mean, I would love to kind of photograph an Oscars.
Okay.
I'd love to photograph kind of stuff like that. And then obviously, I think there's a bunch of celebrities that I would love to like kind of photograph. But it's weird because like when you photograph them, you have to keep that like weird, like hi, I'm a professional.
Yeah.
But, like,
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So how? Well, this is kind of off tangent, but
Yeah.
how do you feel about about paparazzis?
You know, like I don't know, like I think that like my problem with paparazzi are like I think it's not so much paparazzi because here's the thing, like people are like, oh, these people are scum, and it's like, well, they're scum because I'm market formed.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing is, it's like, oh my god, why does McDonald's sell Big Macs? They're bad for you. It's like, well, people buy Big Macs, like that's
Yeah.
why. So like I love how people are like, oh my god, these paparazzi are scum. It's like, oh, do you know like the latest update about Kim and Pete? Guess what? They're there. So I think there's a respectful way to do it. And I think that like I've seen it done where it's like, you know, some paparazzi are just like, hey, like we're standing back and we're just going to get a photo of so-and-so. But obviously when you see stuff like people getting up close and on the car, I mean, it's a human respect thing. And so,
Right.
Yeah, I think I saw one time they were flooding Justin Bieber's truck or
Yeah.
something. And I think he like hit one of them with his truck because
Yeah.
they were standing in front of his car. It's
Yeah.
like, what do you expect?
and I think that like you get that and you're seeing that more with just like media, especially with like in politics a lot and even in sports where it's just like this idea of like there's people who are trained to do this, and I'm not saying
Yeah.
you go to paparazzi school. I mean that would be sounds awful, but like there's a respect to do this, and there's a
Yeah.
way that we can all play and get that. And the other thing with paparazzi that's like is all those guys are freelance, and because of that, it causes a toxic market. So like if people wanted more respectable paparazzi, people could hire staff photographers and
Yeah.
like pay them a living wage, which I know is a crazy novel concept that our country's still fighting with, which is like, what do you mean a living wage? We said minimum. And I'm like, like, what if the minimum is to stay alive? And they're like, no, we don't like that idea. So that's fine.
Well, you mentioned you talked about your feelings on paparazzi, but how do you feel about like the upgrades to people's personal cameras
yeah.
and how everyone thinks that they're,
Yeah. I
Professional
mean, I don't
photographers
know.
now?
We saw it and like we've seen it in so many industries. Cars go faster. Like everyone had like there was a part where like you could make stuff on VCR. Like you could make stuff with a handheld camera. Was Scorsese like, ooh, no, like people who are good at it are good at it. And you're seeing it in this field. And like there's a lot of old timers that are like, back in my day, it's like, yeah, back in your day, people died from polio. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, just sit in the past. Like, that's part of it. You have to like evolve and go with it. I think obviously there's some stuff where like, there's been multiple movies that have been shot on iPhones. There's a movie called Tangerine that was shot all on an iPhone 8. Like, and it's a really well done movie. But the thing is, like, that's still a director that did that still had to find that purpose and know how to use that tool. And at the end of the day, like, the tools are going to always get better. They always have gotten better. Like, guess what? Wheels aren't made from stone anymore. Like, the tools have gotten better. You just need to find a way to like adapt and be better. And just like, I've never felt threatened by like
Camera phones.
Yeah. No, I haven't. I mean, I think like your sports photography, there's definitely like you need a certain size lens, you need some certain equipment and stuff. But I've never, when felt adequately equipped with stuff, looked at somebody next to me and said, God, if I had that camera, I would have made that photo. I'm always like, no, I know how, like I am the issue. I need to figure this out.
So yeah, there's basics of photography that regardless of whether you're using a DSLR, a mirrorless camera, or a cell phone, you've got to have good lighting. You got to have like correct composition. You got to know how to do that on the fly.
And cameras for a while like were a like social economic border. Like people couldn't afford to have their picture taken. That's why you didn't smile in photos.
Yeah.
Is because it took so long to stay still, and like that was their only moment. Like I've a photo of my great grandfather. He has 2 photos that we know of because like that used to be what you saved up for years for, right?
Yeah.
And so like you have that, and like you looked at it with like with the protests that happened in Egypt back in 2000, like in like 2011. video was coming out that we had never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
George Floyd is the only reason that's the case. The police report came out and said he died of a cardiac arrest event. Somebody filmed that. Like, I think that's the thing that like people are ignoring when they're like, well, everyone's a photographer. I'm like, well, maybe everyone should be a photographer. Like, we're getting more access to things than we have in the past. I think the only thing that's detrimental is like, obviously there's like the whole side of like, I'm like growing up as a teenager. I have young cousins that like, I could not imagine like the way I communicate with friends is by consistently taking photos. Like, and then all of your mistakes are saved. Like there's Facebook statuses where I post like where I'm like, oh, I posted like 9 Bon Iver fucking lyrics. Or
the like where I don't know what is the thing where it tells you like
the memories like
oh, it's so embarrassing.
It makes me want to vomit every time. Yeah. I'm just like that timestamp of who you are as a person. And like at the moment you're like, this is cool, this is relevant. Yeah. And then you look back on it and you're like, I was a moron.
Yeah, and it's funny when I hear like an older generation be like, all these kids are stuck in their phone. It's like, oh, you mean like when you're a teenager, arguably like your most narcissistic time, you're given a device that says you can make this be whatever world you want it to be. Like you want it. Like I like you guys were narcissists from when I hear when you guys had cassette tape and hairspray and that's it kind of thing. So I think that's the only thing. But yeah, I think that's when it comes to this, like we're giving access to cameras into people that used to not have access for it before. So I think that's really cool.
Well, and it's also cool seeing the like the older technology. Film cameras are like huge right now. People are buying up film cameras. You can't hardly get them anymore, just because there's like the vintage feel to it. And
sorry.
No, you're fine.
No. I thought I knew where my water bottle was, and I was gonna be slick.
But there's this resurgence of old technology that is still viable, but you're still using like the basic what you need to know about using film. Like cameras.
I think that when you look back at a lot of different things, when you like, I think like when you first are out on your own, you eat fast food because it's available and it's quick. But then you take a step back and go, well, how can I like do something that takes more time and more thought out? And I think that you're seeing that with film cameras. You're seeing that with fashion. You're seeing like a lot less fast fashion. You're seeing people being like, well, what if I were to take this and like really invest in learning these things and want to learn all the different basics of it and all the different parts of it. And I think that's really interesting. I play around with Polaroids all the time. Yeah. Like that's a big thing that I play around with. I've been doing it for a while. And I like doing that. And I like I don't photograph my friends with my work cameras. I use my Polaroid. Yeah. Because I like having something tangible. That was something I grew up with. My mom had boxes of photos of us from kids.
Yeah, we did too.
And isn't that cool to like hold a photo of like this is me at 4? Yeah. Like this is me at 4 when my parents thought it was okay for me to have this haircut. Like I don't know why.
They chose this for me.
Yeah, I don't think they did. I think it was just at a point where it's like it's not in his eyes. Like he won't trip. Let's go. Move forward.
Yeah, mine was always like, oh, does he not have to do with anything with it? Great, because he's not going to.
Yeah. There's times where I just like I'm one of 18 cousins, and like when my cousins were younger. Yeah, my mom's Irish Catholic, and so I think that her parents just kept having kids, so they didn't have to do dishes. And then they had more kids, and they had more dishes, so then it became a problem. But no, I mean, I remember when they were young, and I would see my like aunts and my uncles, and I'm right in the middle of it, and like just running around. And I'm like, this is the best birth control I could ever like afford. It's just like watching my aunt like picking up a screaming like naked toddler from the sink because it was taking a bath, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need this in my life. And then I look back at my mom, and I'm just like, sorry, because as if I like to imagine that was the worst time, and not me when I was like 18 and 19 being like, you don't get me. Like that wasn't the worst.
You don't understand.
Where my mom's like, Jesus, he could actually hurt someone else now. This is crazy.
So you dabble in stand-up comedy.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that like I guess if semi-professional is a word, I've been paid to do it before. I've toured around and done it. So yeah, I've been doing it for about like 12 years now.
How did you get into it?
I was chubby as a kid, always was, and I would like to say that there was I remember my brother beat up a bully for me one time, and I was like, thank you, which is weird to say thank you to, like when your brother is like beating somebody up, and you're like, good job, sport. And he just told me, he's like, you got to find a way to defend yourself. And I realized at the time I was like, believe it or not, like a very small kid. I was like, I can't fight. I don't know if I'm physically imposing. I know I'm kind of funny. So I'm like, if I can make people laugh, they don't get mad at me. So I've always kind of been that. I love attention. When we moved from Virginia to Illinois, we gotten cable for the first time. And I grew up watching The Simpsons and Martin and like all these older and like a lot of like old black and white movies. Me and my best friend became really good friends because we both liked Mel Brooks. And so I just liked this idea of like, this is so cool that they can make people laugh. And then when I was in junior high, if you stayed up past 11:30 on Comedy Central, they would play uncensored stand-up. So that you could hear all the words. And they were playing like Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, you know. There's a comedian called Paulo Francisco I really liked. And it was so cool just to like listen and see that and see all these people and like that they had, you know, like they were just on screen and like it's like what they got paid to do. And in my head, I'm like, they got paid to be like to just be themselves and like be cool. And like that's so awesome. And then I got, you know, looking into like Andy Kaufman and then looking into sketch comedy and stuff. So then I was like 17, 18 when I was in college, and I said, I'm just going to start doing this. So I started a little bit right before college, like really small, and then started doing it in college, and I would drive up to Louisville and perform at the Improv there. And then just, I would do a couple shows in Chicago. I got, so have you guys seen 22 Jump Street?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you know who the Lucas brothers are?
No.
So there's a scene where there's all the twins.
Oh, yeah.
They're the two black twins.
Oh, okay.
With glasses. I did stand up with them at this NBC. My sister
cool.
called me. Yeah, my sister. I was interning in the city at a fashion company, and my sister was like, "You can laugh at the fashion company thing. Like, yeah, I get that. I like clothes, but I was like, it's pretty lights and pretty women, so maybe that's my shot in." But then my sister's like, "Hey, they're doing the stand up competition for NBC. They're looking for writers. You should go. It's like all ages." And I'm like, cool, because I was 19 at the time, and I was like, all right. So I go down. What she failed to tell me was that it was a product called, or it was a show called Stand Up for Diversity, and they were looking for mainly diverse writers. So
White male.
Yeah, shocking, right? And so I was one of 3 white people in the crowd, which was like really actually refreshing.
Yeah.
So I remember I went and did my set, and this guy next to me was like, yeah, he kept having the same joke about how he looked like Chad Kroeger, who's the lead singer of Nickelback. Yeah. And like, it didn't hit the first time. Sure, shit didn't hit the 7th time. And so they broke us up. There was 100 of us. They broke us up into 5 groups of 20. He was in my group. And then they would pick 20 people from there. And we got 1 minute. And we had 4 talent execs from NBC. And they would, like, right then, they'd say, in a minute, we'll call you back. And so I had 1 minute, and I had been doing stand-up for about a year at the time. And I maybe had 6 minutes I felt good with. So I went up and I did a set. And then I left, and then like no one knew who I was. All these people had been doing stand up in Chicago. So I came back and someone was like, who the hell is Ian Mall? And I was like, oh, that's me. And they're like, oh shit. And so like I made it to the next round. And like there's a guy named Marvin Phipps, really big, just like bodybuilder kind of big, black guy. And he was like, man, you won't even let us have this, will you? He was, the joke I told was, do you can tell Winnie the Pooh was written by white people because they named their the loud athletic character Tigger and didn't think it offended anybody. And I said, do you think it's offensive to tigers in the like lion community, like in the cat community, where like if a lion's like, "What up, my Tigger?" and they're like, you can't say that word. And so I told that joke to a room of black people because I was stupid.
Well, I bet they loved it.
They loved it. They thought it was really funny, but it was like terrifying. And those things were like,
and like
if
that doesn't hit, then you're hosed.
I was talking to like one of the comics I'd made. His name was Mike Vaughn, and I was like, yeah, I was really nervous. He's like, no, but like we got the point of the joke was like that like this was allowed to become a thing, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't want to sound offensive, and I think that's the thing. But I remember doing that, and I was like, yeah, so I got called back. I got 2 minutes this time. Did stand up, and then you had to call a phone number, and they took the top 5, and then they did a showcase and stuff. So
you had to call a phone number?
Yeah, because they wanted to review tape more and stuff. Because I mean, like a woman from NBC came up to me afterwards and was like, "You've only been doing stand up for like what, like 2 years?" And I was like a year and a half, and she was like, "Yeah, like you're good, but you have like no idea."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Green.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was really refreshing to hear, and then I just kept doing it and touring around the country. Like whenever I was interning, I always just kind of pick it up and try to do shows and stuff. So yeah.
Okay. So. Would you rather be like a writer for like a show like SNL or be like a big time photographer for like, I don't know, like the New York Times or something like that?
Yeah, that's always really interesting. I think that I would pick the SNL route only because it's a more rare kind of thing. I think that like, you know, and also like it's easier for me because like I've had my stuff published in the New York Times and I've had my stuff. I've never been on SNL. I've never like kind of thing. I think I'd rather do the SNL thing because I think comedy to me, like especially SNL, like God, it is just so much work. It is so hard, and like SNL is a really rare beast because it's one of those things that's like, I need you to write about this thing that happened this week, and because the way the internet is now, it's like, hey, you know that take on Joe Biden because he like had like weird sunglasses? That's been made 1,000 times. We need a new one now, and just like the way that they keep reworking it. And I think I've always really liked comedy for the same way I like kind of photography, which is like your idea is like, how do I connect with people in my own special way? Like, how do I connect using my either visual eye or my comedic voice to relate this issue in photography or in the world? So, like, you know, if I take a photo, it's like, how do I make someone feel sad when I'm telling a joke? How do I make someone bring up a issue about something that I want to bring up? So, I think I would want to do SNL. I mean, I know it'd be cool too. Like,
yeah. So, take us back to the first time you ever did stand up.
So the first time I can remember doing stand up, I was in sixth grade, and I completely stole pretty much every joke from a Pablo Francisco set, like word for word. The only joke that I had made on my own was that I thought it'd be cool to be a milkman. I wanted to always be like a milkman or an ice cream man, because I said, like, what's a better job than like being an ice cream man? I'm like, think about it. Like, if you're an ice cream man, you get to eat ice cream all day. Like, that was the concept of the joke. Like, there was no like. It was
the first
It wasn't even a joke. It was just like, I want to be an ice
people
cream
thought it was
man.
funny.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this kid's fat. He likes ice cream.
Yeah. Well, hold on.
Well, you said it. You said it.
He said chubby. There's a difference.
Yeah,
My bad. My bad.
John, fucking.
Damn, I'm sorry.
Yeah, John throwing haymakers tonight. No. And then I think the next time I did stand up is I was like, I had done some smaller shows, but I remember I was in college and they had an open mic. And I had some friends who, my RA on my floor, his name was Dave Christopher. He had rapped. We actually hosted a rap show together on at the radio station. I didn't rap. We talked about music. I'm not a glutton for punishment.
Dang, 'cause that's how we were going to end the episode.
No, I would leave. I know, like, I don't do karaoke. I know where I'm funny. I know my strengths, and that's not one of them. And so I remember just doing it. I remember like doing stand up and just being like terrified because I was like, what if this goes bad? And like, I've bombed before, but yeah, that feeling of doing stand up. So like, I think college was the first time where I said, here are jokes that I've written. What do you guys think? And like, there's a great feeling when you're like, hey, here's what I think. And people are like, hooray. And then like, here's what I think. And people are like, I'd rather get booed than knowed. Cause like booed at least means you listened. No is like, oh, you don't even need attention. Like, you're not even giving me attention this time. So yeah.
Like people, like you're doing a show and people literally just say no.
Oh, I did a show one time, and I was doing a show in Savannah, big touristy town. And I was doing a joke, and I had one or two jokes just kind of not hitting. I was in like it was like it was a 12:30 open mic, on a Tuesday night, and I had to do that. I was just like, the guy was just like, kill yourself, and I was like,
oh my gosh,
what?
Dang.
He's like, kill yourself, and I said, would that be more entertaining than this? He goes, I don't know, how'd you do it?
Oh, shit, man.
Like, I've had people like, say stuff like that, and then you got to think on your you got to think on your feet.
Yeah, people are.
I mean, Chris Rock just got slapped for telling a joke. I mean, like,
crazy times we live in.
it's not crazy times. I mean, it was a shitty joke by Chris Rock in the first place. So like, they're both in the wrong, and that's my opinion on that. So,
well, do you think? Well, I guess you kind of just answered it, but I mean, do you think they're jokes that cross the line, or do you think it's the comedian's job to push the line?
my rule of thumb is never punch down. So like, don't like what is the point? Like, I really get frustrated about jokes that are like, like women are dumb because they have vaginas. It's like, what's that joke? Like, what is the point?
Right.
Or like people making fun of like, oh, black people are so ghetto and stuff like that. When you're punching down, it's like, why are you making fun of like groups of people that have been marginalized their entire lives? It's not it's not funny. So I like to look the opposite way in it. So like, I did a stand-up joke that's about how I went on a prostitution sting, and I was like, I'm not going to make fun of prostitutes. What I will make fun of is like what police believe like sexting is. Because like, they have to like sext to get these people to like show up to a hotel room. And so like, have you ever read like what you think like a 28-year-old dude that like grew up in Barnsdall think sexting is, it's hilarious because they'll be like, oh yeah, like I'm wearing this, and it's like, oh, man, you guys aren't even creative. Like hire somebody to at least ghostwrite for you. Like
I didn't even know
khakis.
they did that.
yeah, they have to, like, because they're sting operations and stuff. Yeah, khakis is they're pleated. And it's like, you know.
Ooh.
And so I think it's really easy to make fun of, like, you know, a prostitute in that situation. But the way I look at it is like, I don't know how they got put in that situation. I don't know what that is, and like sex work should be legal and unionized anyway, so I'm not gonna make fun of that. And if I were to use a joke, it would be to push that issue. But yeah, just like don't punch down. Like it's not fun. And I think that's the whole thing with like the Chris Rock thing is like you made fun of somebody who lost their hair because of alopecia that she's been very public with. Also, you made a G.I. Jane joke, and that movie came out 25 years ago. Like, wow, you're really on the forefront of culture there, Chris. And like, and the thing is, like, I know you're good, so yeah. But yeah, there you go.
So what is your process for coming up with material, writing jokes, building a set? How long does that take?
I mean, I try to write every day. Something. I mean, a lot of times I'll just hear something in conversation. I'll bounce stuff off friends. And I think that just like if something's happening in the media, I try to look at it. And you obviously are looking at other comedy and trying to think what people's takes are. And you know, a lot of times it's like I see a lot of people always zigging. Is there a way I can zag kind of thing? And there's sometimes where you just don't get. You don't get the joke and you don't write it. But I think when you put together a set, you got to know like where the show's going to be, what the crowd's going to be like. You know, I cover sports. I have a lot of jokes about football. I probably am not going to go do that to a show if I'm in Austin in a hipster part of town. I know I'm probably not going to do a joke. I did a joke about how Jay-Z put out an album called 444 in response to Lemonade, which Beyonce made, which is about Jay-Z cheating on her, and 444 is his apology. And my joke for that is, do you remember when people used to fight in private? Right? And I told that to in a South Tulsa comedy club at the Looney Bin, and nobody laughed. And the follow-up joke I said was, I should have known you guys wouldn't laugh about rap music when you guys laughed about the Trailer Park Hall of Fame, which is a comedian before me had made a joke about that. So you just have to know your audience too. And so, like, you know, like a lot of people were like, oh, what's your take on Trump? That was a huge issue. And I really couldn't find one. Like the only joke that I made about Trump is that I felt like Trump was just like the worst version of Huck Finn, which was just like, I'm going to make China pay. I'm going to make Mexico pay for the wall. And it's like, dude, everyone knows like you like that you just want someone else to paint the fence. And even then it's like, I think that's the hardest thing is like when you really like a concept, but you can't get it to work. Yeah. But what's really exciting is like I just made a bit that I really like, which is about like, I think catcalling is wrong because like obviously like we shouldn't degrade women and stuff, but I think we're also using the wrong animal. Like I think we should use dog calling, which is just giving them compliments for doing basic things like you do a dog. So like I'll be honest, if someone came up to me and I was drinking nice coffee and they're like, "Oh, is someone getting a little pick me up today?" I'd be like, "Yeah, thanks." Or like, "Oh, so, like who's got new jeans?" I'm like, "I've got new jeans." Like, do you like those new jeans? Like, I love those new jeans. So like that's the issue is it's like just you picked the wrong animal to compliment because like cats are kind of flippant. They just would just be like nice tits and then just like walk away. It's like because they don't give a crap.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
That is a good take.
How often do you perform?
Used to be a lot more. Me and the pandemic threw a wrench in time of things, but you know I try to go up on stage maybe like 1 to 2 times a month, depending on my schedule. I work nights, but you know here and there. I mean I think it sometimes comes in bursts where I'll do 5-6 shows in a month, and then I will like maybe go 2 months without doing it or something like that. So yeah.
And then do you like obviously you said like you write different sets for like the different people or whatever, but how often do you like repeat a set?
I think you like part of it is like getting that set down and making it feel good. So I mean, I would say that if the stuff that I perform that I feel comfortable with, if you like put a gun to my head, I could probably do an hour of stand up.
Oh wow, okay.
Would it be all of it good? Probably not.
Yeah.
But that is also over like 10 years of writing that I can put together jokes that I'm like, I've had these jokes, I've said these jokes, they can hit and everything. And I think you build a joke kind of the way like you kind of build it in the way you're trying to layer it, where it's like, I know this is going to be good. I'm going to try something new. If that fails, I can fall back on something that's going to be good. Because like if I'm doing a showcase and stuff, if I bring friends out, I know you guys have seen me do stand-up before. Not stand, but we'll talk about that later. But I think it's one of those things where like I also feel pressure because like I'm not a big time comic. You guys are taking time out of your day.
Yeah.
I can't control who the openers are, so you might hear some real interesting stuff that I'm not have any control over, and I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I never thought I'd have to go up and go, hey, I'm really sorry that guy talked about his dick for 40 minutes. I'm really sorry. I thought it'd be 20. Really, really is obsessed with it. But I think that you want to make sure that like people are having an enjoyable time. And I think a good comic knows how to like bomb. Like a really good comic will bomb and still make it funny. Like, and it's a great thing, and like it's nice. So yeah.
So when you're coming out with new material and you're testing stuff out, what percentage of it works out and what percentage of it doesn't?
So let's say I write in a month. If I write 20 new jokes, if I can get one of those that's like a 45 seconds to a minute long, I'd consider that like a good month.
Dang.
Like yeah.
So
like,
you're running through a lot of material to get that 1 minute.
So like, I can kind of show you. I have on my phone my notes app.
Yeah.
And on it, I have to look for it because the first joke I wrote is Trump 3 names. I don't know why I even had it, but like right here.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
He's just scrolling through his phone. Yeah,
And
that's
it's just like, and there's things on here. It's such, here we go. Landing a plane Waffle House. Polite broken foot.
So they're not jokes. They're,
no, but like
get
I know
the
what they are.
concept.
Okay. Get you
Locker
to the joke.
room rapping. That one is about how I was in Broken Arrow, which is a high school here's locker room, and they all were rapping, and there was a very excited white kid who was rapping, and every time the N-word would come up, like there was like three black kids on the team whose job was to just make sure this white kid did not say the N-word. Like they would just like look at him, and he'd be like, and they'd be like, okay, like because like I hate to do it, man. Like we're just gonna have to beat your ass if you say it. And so I think you get stuff like that, and then like there's some jokes that like there's some that like obviously a little bit harder. Ones that are really easily. Oh, Tooken's a funny one. Tooken is. I one time accidentally said the word Tooken instead of taken, and it reminded me of like the Claremore version of the movie Taken with Liam Neeson, which is essentially a dude kicking open a trailer door and being like, "I swear to God, if you don't come home right now." So that's Tooken. And so like some of them hit and some of them don't, but I also I have like 3 really close friends that I will be like, hey, I think I have a funny joke, and I will talk to them about it. And if like 2 of them think it's funny, then I'll be like, okay. So like there's a lot, like most of the jokes that are bad here, there are worse jokes where I've had my friend Austin Anthony, who's been my best friend since college, will be like, I don't like it.
Yeah,
I don't like it. And Austin's helped me out with a couple of jokes. He did a great joke about Tom Brady's retirement that I really liked, which is, it's nice to know because Tom Brady's dad is the one that announced his retirement. And he goes, it's nice to know that your parents won't let you like control your life even when you've won 7 Super Bowls. Where it's like, are you gonna retire? And then like they asked his dad, and his dad was like, well, no, he's not gonna retire. And it's like, I just imagine that conversation, which is like, I don't want to do football anymore, but it's like, Thomas, you're so good at it. What are you doing? His dad's Jewish in that situation. I don't know why, but yeah, but Austin's great. He's yeah.
There's a way to stifle that comment. All right, so I mean, and then even once you come up with your jokes, I mean, you probably continue to tweak them.
There's a rhythm. Like I know, like so I've done a couple jokes. Like I've written a couple jokes that are 8 minutes, 10 minutes long. They're like stories, and in that story you got to pepper in stuff. So you're like, this is good, but like, so how do I connect from this point to that point to make somebody laugh? When you guys saw me do stand-up, did I do the joke about my parents did DD for my parents or no?
I don't think so.
I don't think that was the show before. I forgot what was my longer joke that I had worked on with you, that I had done. And so I think that's something that you got to work on.
Keeping people engaged.
Well, because the rule of thumb is always like you want to keep people laughing every 20 seconds.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it starts the concept. So I have a joke that, Stan, you've not heard this, they have, which is that there's the BOK Tower is an exact replica of the World Trade Center in Tulsa. And when I went to go photograph it, the security guard told me I couldn't because it was an issue of Homeland Security. And in that moment, I believed that the security guard thought that 9/11 happened strictly for architectural reasons. That Al-Qaeda was like, we don't like the way this building looks. And so they were offended by minimalist design, right? And so you get that concept, and you're like, okay, so I have this joke.
Yeah.
How do I get it so as I'm going throughout it, and then to hit the punchline, And then what do I use to like kind of tag off that punchline? And then if I'm telling a story, so then I'm like, all right, if I've got this joke, well, what if I want to connect it? So I have another joke that's about how, like, I don't understand why we have to stand up for the national anthem during baseball. And a lot of times at like sporting events, you'll hear people be like, you know, if it wasn't for our brave men and women, we wouldn't be playing baseball or sports here today. And I'd say, I don't know, the Nazis were pretty competitive. I think we'd still have sports. They would just look a lot different. Like, so like, I think it's a weird claim to be like, if we lost World War II, we wouldn't play baseball. It's like, no, there'd be a lot less Ramirez's in it, but like, we'd still play baseball. Or like a different German, I don't know what they do in Germany, like throw beer steins over a fence or something. Like, but we do something. So and then so you try to build upon that. So I think that's the hardest thing with like a good, I've seen comics who go up and they do their jokes and they're all discontinued jokes, but like comics I really love, comics that I really like are storytelling comics. There's a guy named Sean Patton who's incredible that tells these long, like 10, 12-minute long stories that are really, really good. But they're all cohesive. And then you take a step back and you're like, oh, that set was about friendship. That entire hour was about friendship, but we sprinkled in all these different jokes about insert shenanigans here. So
yeah. No, that's cool. I think someone that's really good at that is, have you ever heard of Mike Berbiglia?
Oh, love Mike Berbiglia.
Man, he tells like a 45-minute story, and you're just like sucked in the entire time.
So part of that too is like Mike Berbiglia like worked with NPR to learn how to do like audio storytelling, which I think is really cool. Yeah, like that you have these comedies being pushed in all these different ways. Like there's a podcast called Welcome to Night Vale that I thought was fascinating, and it's a fake radio podcast in a fake town in the 50s that's all taking place as like a weird Twilight Zone town, but like it's a joke and it's creepy, but it never references itself. I think that like we're in a golden age for comedy because you can make people laugh in so many different ways. Yeah, like there's a guy called Fake Handshakes that I follow. Oh no, it's called Obvious Plant. I'm sorry. Obvious Plant makes fake products. Like he made a floppy disk that's called the Goat Internet, and he's like, and it's like upload it to your computer, and you can finally get on the secret Goat Internet, all the secrets you've ever wanted to know, and he'll just put it in a store. So like someone will like look at it. One of them was like, "Oops, all fingers," and it was just like a bag full of fingers, and I think that's great. My friend Jack Wood, who used to own Chimera, he hosts trivia at Whittier.
Did you say "Oops, all fingers"?
Yeah, dude. It's called Obvious Plant. It's one of the funniest things.
It's a bag of fingers.
There's just a bag of fake fingers, and then like all of the advertising on it's like, "Oops, our bad." Like there should be toes in this, but there's not, and it's great. It's great. Like I think that like I think comedy is a great thing because like I got my friend Austin and I were talking about this. Like I think Jackass is like a high form of modern art. Because like you're breaking down like things on a visceral human level. Like you could show Jackass in a theater in like Indonesia and people will laugh. Because like they don't have to understand the language, but like and like you also get like these primal things of like I've seen like there's one of my favorite Jackass bits is they take a jet turbine and they turn it on full speed and then they try to like do stuff in it and one of them is catch a football. So they huck a football up there and it's like and they cut to Steve-O and he's legitimately scared. And it's like film, if it's supposed to touch us, if we're supposed to experience all these human emotions, these guys have done this in a way, but like when they get hurt, they're also really, I could talk about this for hours. Like this is one of my weird things I get on tangents about. I got on another tangent today earlier about trains, how they'll save America, but that's a different time for that's a different time.
He was actually just talking to Mason.
Listen, man, I'll tell you, if we built trains, we could really help on a lot of things. But anyways, I think that like that's what I love about like right now. So many people are like, "Oh, PC culture. Oh, like you can't say anything." You know, it's like no, you're not funny. Also, like we've heard these takes for so long. We've been called fat and stupid and gay. And all these offensive words for so long. All of a sudden, those people now have an avenue. Are now getting a space to go. Well, like, is it like being straight's boring? There's a TikTok where my friend or Instagram, my friend. She went to Ohio University and they have a big party, and it's a big block party for Halloween. And she took photos of every Guy Fieri she could find, everyone that was dressed up as Guy Fieri, and she made this entire montage of just Guy Fieri's, and it's hilarious because you're like one of those things where like every one of those guys has a look on their face that goes, "I'm the only Guy Fieri today," and it's like no, there's 17 of them. You're not unique. Like you never will be. And I'm like, I think that's great. I think it's great. So I think it's an exciting time for that.
Yeah. Well, do you want to get into some rapid fire questions?
Let's do it.
Okay. So John wrote most of these,
Okay.
but they're all great.
All right.
So you're very good at gut reactions, so I'm not worried about you dwelling too much on it.
Yeah.
Number one, what dish do you cook the best?
Oh, I make like a caprese salad pasta, like chicken, tomato, parmesan, basil. It's what my mom made as a kid. It's a big comfort food for me. Like anytime I feel sad or lonely. During the pandemic, I think I was making it almost weekly. Like, but I would say that, or I make a pretty decent pad thai. Oh, eggs too. I'm really good at eggs.
Like boiled eggs, like hard boiled, like what are we talking about?
All eggs.
So one of my New Year's resolutions, I try to make a series of New Year's resolutions. One of them was I wanted to learn to make eggs 40 different ways.
Dang.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I didn't realize you could make them 40 different ways.
Have you done the
Joke's on me.
Yeah, yolks on you.
Yeah.
Good. Look at that.
Who's on your Mount Rushmore of comedy?
Oh, so Mel Brooks, I would say, is definitely on there. I would say Richard Pryor. I would say Matt Groening, creator of The Simpsons. I think just that he's incredible. And it's a tie between Gene Wilder or John Mulaney. Gene Wilder, I've never met a man who was so tender that was so funny. He was a man that he was just so good. And Mel Brooks is, I think, one of like the funniest people that's ever existed. Richard Pryor is fantastic. That's a tough question, but that would be the four off the top of my head. Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
What is the dumbest purchase you've ever made?
A degree in photojournalism and pop culture studies double major is pretty up there. So I'll give you two answers. I think the dumbest purchase I made was I bought a hat online. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be a hat guy. But my head is notoriously big. When I played football, they had to order a special helmet for me. And I would like put it on. And I just had like a Curb Your Enthusiasm moment that was like, what did you expect? Like this was going to fit? What did you expect? And then I would say, in hindsight, I was dating my ex and I spent like $560 on Hamilton tickets. And we broke up like 8 months later.
Oh,
and
dang.
like I remember like I paid for it through a firm where you like get paid like $50, you know, with interest and stuff. And so like like after the breakup, it was like, hey, by the way, we're taking $55 away from you.
Just as a reminder of your
This is a
broken
reminder that
relationship.
like your love is dead. So is your bank account. And I'm gonna be honest, this is gonna be a hot take. Hamilton's fine. It's fine. There's better plays. Watch more theater. And if you want to know more about history, read books. And if you want to know more about Black history, read books that you weren't told about when you were in high school. But like, and I like Lin-Manuel Miranda. I think In the Heights is a much better production by him. So yeah.
If you could transform into an animal, what would it be?
My favorite animal is a bear, and I think that would probably be my answer. I just like anything that is like cute but intimidating.
What type of bear? Like a panda bear?
Grizzly probably.
Oh, okay.
No,
Koala
pandas are
bear.
Dumb. No, polar bears are dying.
No, koala bear.
Oh, no, koala bears are like also like 90% of koala bears have STDs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like they sleep all the time.
Chlamydia,
They're
right?
mean. Well, yeah, it's chlamydia. Yeah, that's the main one. It would be weird if it was like, well, it's a range of them actually. They're just freaks. But I don't know, like the grizzly bear, or I don't know, like a tortoise would be kind of cool because like they did a study that if you put a turtle in a perfectly environmental, like in a perfect like environmental oasis, it could live for 400 years.
Dang.
So like that'd be kind of cool. Like there's tortoises that were alive when like McKinley was president.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'd also be a tortoise. Like I don't know.
Is living long that
Yeah,
long
what's
worth?
the point? What's the point?
What's the riskiest dare you've ever done?
God.
That you can say on the podcast.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I streaked a couple times in places that were real questionable. I'll trade you a risky dare with the dumbest thing I did. I was at a party one time. I was drinking. I saw a dude cutting an apple with a knife, and I said, "Can I see your knife?" And he threw it across the kitchen with the knife open, and I just caught it. And the whole party went silent.
Wait, did you actually catch it or
I
just stab
caught-
your hand?
Oh no, I caught it.
Oh, wow.
The whole party, my friend Adri walked over and goes, "Hey, I need to talk to you." She's like looking at my hand, and she's like, "What happened?" And like I had no idea what I did. I was like, "Knife, got it." And like I didn't have the concept where she's like, and I remember because like Adri Funky, who's like works in publishing now, she's one of the smartest people I've ever met. She was like, "This could have went there." No
This
good.
could've
And I
impaled
was
your
like-
hand.
And then I remember being like, "Oh."
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Yeah. So
And ignore recency bias unless it is The best. What's the best concert you've ever attended?
I mean, before, so I just went to go see LCD Sound System, which I loved, and I would say that concert was incredible. I would say before that would be a tie between, I saw Leon Bridges on his home tour, and he came out and played River with just an acoustic guitar, him and his backup singer, and that was like insane. I just like was incredible. Yeah. Here's a big hint. If I cry, I love it. So I just bawled. And then Elton John was incredible. Yeah. Elton John was really good. But LCD Sound System was just like so many things. I mean, it's a really special band for me in that I feel like I've grown up with them. I got to see it with friends. I got to see it in a time in my life that I really needed to see it. And so I would say they were. And I didn't think they were going to tour again at all. So if you guys haven't listened to them, you should. They're like the Talking Heads, but like angstier. Yeah.
Amy and I are actually seeing Leon Bridges next week at the end of April.
Is he at Tulsa Theater?
Tulsa Theater, yeah.
Yeah. I saw him at Canes when he did that show, and then he came through Tulsa Theater, but like he did really good, but yeah.
We're seeing Nathaniel Rateliff at Canes next week.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah, I'd love to see him. Yeah. To answer your worst concert was a tie between Chainsmokers and New Kids on the Block. Chainsmokers were just jerks. They're like, you guys like this? Like, do you guys like this music? Like, it's like, oh, like eat shit. Like you're like Euphoria without the drug use. Like you're boring. Like what is this? And then like New Kids on the Block were just bad. They just sounded awful. They were just like so bad. And like so many like moms were just like, oh my god, like Marky. I'm like they're not even hot anymore. Yeah. Like if you're gonna go for hot older men, that's cool, but like they're not it. Boys to Men played before them, and everybody got pregnant. Every single person got pregnant, and like they just went and they're like, I'm gonna steal you, I'm gonna steal you, I'm gonna steal you, and the women were just like, hell yeah, man. Like I have never felt more like when Boys to Men was singing, I'm like, yeah, you can take my credit card, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, man, like do what you
want. One of the things I hate about Spotify is how whenever you're listening to a song, they show you picture of the band, but it's always a current picture of the band. Yeah. But like, it's like when you're listening to like Blink-182 or a band that was really popular in 2000s and has since done a lot of drugs. Yeah. It's like, oh, they have not aged well.
Every pop punk band, it's like, oh, you've either been arrested or written a manifesto about how women suck. And it's like, I shouldn't be shocked by this, but like when all of your songs are just like, Melissa, I hate you because you don't love me. And it's like, I don't like Melissa's not allowed to love you, man. It's cool. I'll still sing along with them. Dear Maria, Count Me In is a great song. So. Yeah.
Well, Ian, it's been fun. It's been a pleasure.
Do you want to plug anything?
No, I guess anything that I would say is like support your local newspaper. I don't think enough people do that. Like everyone complains about like, hey, you guys don't cover this. It's like we do. Support your local newspaper if you can. And like try to go see local comedy. I'm not going to say it's going to be good. I won't ever make that promise, but
that's we should have asked where.
So Evan Hughes puts on a lot of shows, and so there's monthly shows at the Vanguard, Heirloom, Sound Pony, Mercury Lounge. There's open mics that are at Fur Shop and Starlight. Laura Cook and Hilton Price do a show at Starlight that I love. That's in a great room. It's one of my favorite rooms in town that I've played. They do great stuff all the time. There's a group called Tulsa Comedy Collective you can always try to jump in on and just like kind of follow. But like some local comics that I would plug that I think are great are Ryan Green, Lauren Turner, the comics that I've mentioned before. TJ Clark is great. Michael Zampino is really good. Yasemin is incredible. She opened for she did a show with Russell Westbrook a while back. She's really, really funny. Mackenzie Bryant, she just got married, so I think it's a different name. But I think that go check out these people, and they're great because I will say this, like, for as many cringe comics I've seen, I've also seen a good handful of comics where I'm like, shit, that was really funny. Like, that was really expected. Jokes that I would never have thought of that I'm like crying laughing about. So yeah.
Well, do you have any upcoming shows?
Nothing planned right now, but we'll see. I mean, if there are, I'll just sprint through the podcast and be like, hey, come do that.
I'll plug it.
I'll buy ad time. How much are you charging for 20 seconds?
Yeah, 6-pack.
A 6-pack, cool. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That would.
And
you should.
We'll just bring you on to do a live read, and we'll
pop a cold one.
Stone cold it. And
I will only read for Blue Chew, even if we're not sponsored by them. I'm like, listen, I've never used Blue Chew, but I support the product. Do you like gummies? Do you like erections? Then I got something for you. I'm like, Audible, who needs to get smarter? We need to get harder. Blue Chew coming at you. Boom, there we go. So, yeah.
Man.
Ugh.
All right. Well, it's been fun.
Yeah.
And we'll go ahead and wrap this up.
All right, awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.